All right, class. Continuing with our How Will You Measure Your Life project, we're going to talk a little bit about strategy, and that is, how do we create a strategy for our lives? I spend a lot of time consulting with different organizations about how to create a strategic plan for their organizations and how to implement that to make the organizations more successful. And what I've found over time is we can take those same concepts and apply those to our professional and personal lives to make ourselves more successful. So let's take a look at that. So when I do strategic planning with organizations, I find that most effective strategic plans have these elements that you see here on the slides in one form or another. They start with a foundation of what are the core values, what's the organization's purpose, what's the organization's mission, and those three components comprise what we call the organization's vision. On top of that, we develop a specific strategy for the organization based on its strengths and weaknesses. Then we come up with objectives and action plans to accomplish the strategy, to achieve the mission. And then finally, we develop a measurement system to track our progress towards those goals. And when we're creating a strategic plan for our lives, we need basically these same elements to maximize our return on our time. Author Jim Collins and Jerry Porras came up with this vision framework that explains the difference in the different components of vision. That is, what's the difference between values and purpose and mission, because that can get a little confusing. And so I want to talk through that just briefly with you so you have a clear understanding of that. First of all, your core values are 3 to 5 guiding principles. It's basically your philosophy of life. And typically your core values are held sacred. They're things that never change, that are sacred to you. Moving from the core values to the purpose builds on the core values, but the purpose is basically the fundamental reason for the organization's or the person's existence. That's basically, why are you on this earth? Why are you put here? How would the world be a worse place if you weren't here? Our purpose grows out of our core values, and it's like a guiding star. We're always working towards our purpose, but we never fully achieve our purpose. It's something we're always working towards. And our purpose should guide us for a lifetime. If we were talking about a company, it should serve the company for 100 years, a century basically, but certainly should guide a person for his or her lifetime. The third component of the Collins-Porras vision framework is the mission. And the mission is just a big goal, a BHAG, a bold, compelling, audacious goal. A mission should always have a clear finish line and a specific time frame. And once you accomplish your mission, you set a new one. So typically every 5 to 15 years, you're going to be setting new missions as you accomplish your previous mission, right? One of the biggest mistakes I see in strategies, whether we're talking about an organization strategy or an individual strategy, is their mission is not specific enough. When you read it, you're like, I'm not sure how to quantify that. I don't know. How will you tell when you've accomplished it? So make sure you're specific when you set your mission. So our personal vision is comprised of these three components. So notice something about the values. We don't so much decide on our values as we do discover them. Typically, we already have our core values. We've already held our core values for most of our lives. We just seldom thought about them and distilled them down to the most important few. Our purpose, it's something that should be broad and inspiring, should last our entire lives. And keep in mind, again, the mission is more focused. It has a specific finish line. And you should be able to tell without a doubt when you've accomplished your mission. You shouldn't have to guess about that. It shouldn't require interpretation. So when you get ready to compile your list of core values, you may want to take a look at the list that I posted on Brightspace. But I want you to keep something in mind. This list of potential values isn't some type of buffet where you go through the list and pick the ones that you think sound most politically correct. The goal for this list is just to remind you of the things that are already important to you. These are the types of values that if you were faced with violating one of these core values, you'd consider quitting your job or walking away from a great financial opportunity in order to remain true to your values. So for most people, there aren't going to be more than about a half dozen values that meet that high threshold, right? There aren't going to be more than just a few things that you're willing to quit your job over rather than violate those values. Another thing about values is you may have a personal value that doesn't appear on the list. That's okay. You may think of something that's important to you that isn't on the list. You may also have a core value that doesn't make sense to anyone other than you. That's okay. Author Ayn Rand wrote a book once called The Virtue of Selfishness. Now, selfishness isn't a value that we typically think of as being a positive thing, right? But Rand sincerely believed that the best way for individuals to contribute to society is to seek their own rational self-interest. That was one of Rand's values, that society would be better off overall if each individual maximized their own opportunity. So all to say that you may have a value that doesn't appear on this list of all options, and you may have a particular value that's important to you that doesn't make sense to anyone but you. So after documenting your 4 to 6 values, you can move on to your purpose, your life purpose. As you're thinking about that, keep in mind that your purpose should be an outgrowth of your core values. There should be a consistency between those two. And your purpose should describe the fundamental reason for your existence. Your purpose isn't going to be 3 pages long. You should be able to articulate your purpose in just a couple of sentences at the most, maybe 1 sentence. Your purpose should very quickly and clearly convey why you exist and how you feel basic human needs. That is, why would the world be a worse place if you weren't here? A good purpose statement's broad and enduring, right? It's supposed to last for a lifetime. So if you make your purpose something that's too dependent on a particular technology or time frame, it may not have a long enough shelf life to last a lifetime. And finally, your purpose is a motivating factor, not necessarily a differentiating factor. When you read your purpose, it should energize you. It should fire you up. But it doesn't have to be different than other people's. You may know another person or two that have the same purpose as you. That's okay. As I said, the third component of your vision is your mission or your mission statement. So why do you think it's important to have a mission statement, right? Why is it important? Why should we even take the time to do that? Well, first of all, there's going to be lots of days or evenings when you're sitting up late at night, you're working on your degree or working on stuff, other things at work that help you move closer to your mission. And understanding your mission helps motivate you to give that extraordinary effort, to go the extra mile to achieve your goal. Also, as we talked about in the Clayton Christensen article, we have to make decisions. None of us have unlimited resources, and so it helps us to make the best decisions about our time and money if we understand what our mission is. That is, does spending this time that you're getting ready to spend or spending the money that you're getting ready to spend move you closer to your mission or farther away from your mission? And does it move you closer than some of the other alternatives that you could spending your time and money on? There are basically 4 different types of mission. You can read through those. You might want to be, if you're an engineer, you might say you want to be the Russell Westbrook of engineering or marketing or whatever thing is. You might say that you want to achieve a certain position or financial situation by a particular date. Regardless, remember your mission should be quantifiable. So after you write your mission statement, ask yourself these 6 questions, right? First of all, does your mission align with your values and purpose? Again, there should be a consistency throughout your vision. Is your mission clear and compelling? It's easy to understand. Is it sincere and authentic? If you read your mission and you think to yourself, that sounds like BS or just corporate doublespeak, then it's not good. You need to take another shot at it. Your mission should be difficult but doable, right? It should stretch you, but it shouldn't be impossible. When you read your mission, can you, just by reading your mission, do you know what the finish line is? Can you tell how you'll be able to measure when it's completed? And then finally, does it have a timeline of 5 to 15 years? Now, we're going to move into strategy and talk about the strategy for your life a little bit. Before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about thinking big, about how important it is to dream big and not limit your thinking. Here are just a few examples where people weren't able to think beyond their preconceived ideas about what's possible. Back in the day, Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, pitched his idea for a telephone to Western Union, and Western Union responded and said, "The telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is of no value to us." Now, probably every one of you watching this video right now has a phone in your pocket. And if you leave home without it and realize that within a mile or two of home, you probably turn around and go back home and get it because you can't be without it. Fred Smith, when he was a student at Yale University, wrote a paper about this idea for an overnight delivery service. And the professor gave him a grade of a C. And he said, "The concept is interesting, but in order to earn better than a C, the idea must actually be feasible." Well, apparently that worked out pretty well for Fred. Warner Brothers, back in the days of silent movies, famously said, "Who the hell wants to hear actors talk?" And the last example here is when Bill Bowerman, one of the co-founders of Nike, was pitching this idea for running shoes with a waffle-shaped sole. One sporting shoe manufacturer said to Bowerman, they said, "We don't tell you how to coach, don't tell us how to make shoes." And so don't limit your thinking. In fact, in 1960, few people would have guessed that the largest retailer in the world would be headquartered in Bentonville, Arkansas. But Walmart grew from this little 5 and dime in Bentonville to become the largest retailer in the world. Gary Hamel gives one of my favorite examples of not limiting our thinking. Here's a little exercise for you. Look at yourself in the mirror. Think about all your abilities and life experiences, all the things you've gone through, the classes you've taken, the people you know, the things you've done in your different jobs, and then look at a head of lettuce. So if you were going to create something new, that is, you were going to create something new and try to maximize the value, would you rather start with a human being with all of your potential and experience, or a simple head of lettuce? In his book, Leading the Revolution, Gary Hamel writes, "You can't put a computer chip in lettuce. You can't send lettuce over the internet. Yet the market for pre-washed, pre-cut, pre-packaged lettuce grew from nothing in the late 1980s to $1.4 billion in 2000. Send an email to everybody on your management team. If someone can create a $1.4 billion market for lettuce, what the hell is our excuse?" Right? So this company called Fresh Express basically created a $1.4 million market for lettuce that didn't even exist. Certainly, we have no excuse for not dreaming big and thinking big. Now, one of the challenges when we talk about strategy, though, is sometimes we want to make it into something difficult. We make it sound more difficult than it really is. But our strategy is really a journey. Our strategic planning is just a journey where the vision is our destination. That is, our purpose is that guiding North Star that we're always pursuing. Our mission is that goal, measurable, quantifiable goal we're trying to hit in the next 5 to 15 years. That's the destination. And the strategy is the how. That is, how are we going to accomplish our purpose and mission? Are we going to do it with innovation and integrity or whatever your values are? Or we're going to use specific objectives and action plans to accomplish our purpose and mission? And how are we going to measure our progress towards our mission? That's all strategy is. It's just describing how we're going to get from where we are today to where we want to be. So here are 4 really simple things to keep in mind as you're working on your strategy. First of all, your strategy must descend directly from your vision. Remember what our vision is. It's our values, our purpose, and our mission. So just like there was a consistency between our values, purpose, and mission, there should also be a consistency between our vision and our strategy. So if our vision talks about a lot of things that center around the theme of innovation, then our strategy is probably going to be innovative, right? Conversely, if our vision, our values, purpose, and mission are all about being financially conservative, then our strategy should reflect being financially conservative. Our strategy should be consistent with our vision. The second thing is our strategy should leverage your specific strengths and unique capabilities. You don't pick a strategy just because it's sexy or just because you've been reading about it in the business publications or on the internet. When you look at your specific strengths and your strategy should reconcile back to your strengths. Your strategy should be realistic. If I have a strategy for becoming more healthy and my strategy requires that I run 5-minute miles, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to run a 5-minute mile. So although you want your mission to stretch you, to challenge you, it still has to be realistic. And finally, the last thing to keep in mind about your strategy is it should be set with the participation of those who are going to be on the line to make it happen, right? So maybe your strategy involves you getting your graduate degree. That may require cooperation from your spouse to know that you're going to be spending time on classes. You may need the cooperation of your family or your boss for you to be able to implement your strategy. So make sure that you have the people on board that are necessary for you to be successful in your strategy. All right, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to sit down and write out a SWOT analysis. You're going to perform a SWOT analysis. Basically, you're just going to sit down and list out what are your personal strengths, your personal weaknesses, what are the opportunities surrounding you, and what are the threats. So in the picture here, you see a basketball player. Do you know who this is? This basketball player? This is Steven Adams. Adams is a professional basketball player, as you know. He played college ball at Pitt. He was, I believe, the 12th overall pick in the 2013 NBA draft. And here's what you need to know about Steven Adams. He's 7 foot tall and weighs 255 pounds. So by most measures, Steven Adams is a great athlete. He's making millions of dollars playing professional sports. But he would be a horrible jockey, right? Adams understands his strengths of his height and his coordination, and he's leveraging his strengths to maximize his strategy towards his goals. He's not trying to be a jockey. It doesn't matter how much his mom told him that he should ride horses, that he would be a great jockey. He's not going to be successful racing horses at his height and weight. And you need to take the same attitude when you do your SWOT analysis. Be honest with yourself about what you're really good at, what you love to do, and also what your weaknesses are. And develop your strategy that leverages your strengths. So the first thing you're going to do on the SWOT analysis is look inward. Do an internal assessment. Look at your own strengths and weaknesses. That is, what are you better at than most people? What are your unique skills? And then the flip side of that is, what are your weaknesses? What are the things that you just hate to do? You're not particularly talented. You'd rather pay someone to do those things than to do those. And here's a key point, a key takeaway from this project is your true strengths make you feel stronger. They're not just things that you're good at. They actually make you come alive. They energize you. Something else to keep in mind when you're doing your internal assessment is think about your resources. Maybe you're financially stable, that is, you're debt-free, or you have financial leverage that gives you options that a lot of other people may not have. You may have a really strong social or professional network that you can leverage. Those can all be strengths that affect your strategy. Next, you move to the external assessment. You're going to look at the things going on around you in the world that could affect your strategy. If the economy's up or down, that can affect your strategy. What may be an effective strategy today might have been a horrible strategy in 2008, 2009 when the economy was tough. There's constantly new developments in technology and in fashion and that type of thing. That may present either an opportunity or a threat to you. Even changes in the regulatory and social environment. Sometimes new regulations may cause a threat, but regulations also create opportunities if you know how to leverage them.